Hi there. Are your pockets full? I know mine sure are. My pockets are full of rebuilding inventory systems again and again and again. Have you ever tried to make an inventory system? Trust me, it's harder than you might think. Now, why do we keep starting from scratch every time? It seems silly considering inventory systems were perfected in 1997. Wouldn't it be good if you could just load up an asset competently made by a programming student over the course of roughly 3 days? Well, boy, do I have some good news for you. Hi, I'm Sam Pollock, student number 101279608, and I've made an easily editable, easily usable, and eminently functional inventory system for you to make use of in your games. Imagine what you can accomplish in the roughly 3 days of time I've just freed up for you. Now let's start by taking a look in Unity, shall we? So here we have a demo scene with the inventory system. Got a bag which you can open and close, and some items to add to it. You'll see when the item's in the inventory, it closes with the bag, and once it's in there, you can't drop it on the ground. You can also add the other items, and they will not overlap with one another. But if you move an item, you can shuffle things around and start sorting it out. But that's not all. An inventory system is only as good as the treasure that you find. So if we head over here, you'll find some boxes. You can transfer items between your inventory and the box, and you can take them back. And once you leave, the box closes. You can make boxes of different size and store your different items in them. Okay, well, how about we start talking about how you can make use of this yourself? So let's close this down, and why don't I show it the process actually. So let's start from scratch here. The new scene. I've lost it. New scene. We'll call this demo video. Let's open it up. So what you'll need in the scene is also conveniently here in the prefabs folder. So we need a canvas, we need a player, and let's get an item. Now, if we run this, you can see, oh, hold on, let me deactivate this scene camera because I've got a camera on the player. So here we have it. We're back. The system's all functional because the scripts are all packed onto the objects. And let's say you wanted to add a new object. Well, that's just a simple matter of copying one of these items or create item system item. We'll call this one square potion. Let's use the square potion sprite. Call it square potion. This is the premium brand. Alright, and now if we create a new item here, let's add it into the scene, move it over, using the 1x1 item prefab for this, because that ought to be sufficient for a little potion. And let's say it's the round potion which we've just made. And now if we run the game, oh, I may have selected the wrong object, square potion. There we have it. And just like the others, it can be added to your inventory and shuffled about. Now let's say you wanted to give the player an upgrade. They've just got a bigger inventory. So you just go here into the inventory, change the size. Now they've got a 6x6. Run it. There we have it. Bigger inventory. Now let's look at adding a container to the scene. So I have this container game object, or prefab object. Let's throw that in. And where have we ended up with it? Not in a good position. There we go. And then we'll add container UI to the canvas. Call this one test container. Call this container test container. Let's make it stand out a bit. And just need to introduce the container to its UI object. And then we can set it up. Let's say we want it to be just a little container. So you set it 3 by 3. And now we'll be good to go. So you run the game. Set on over. And there it is. Add some objects. And we're good to go. And now that we've seen how you use it, why don't we take a peek under the hood and see how it came together? So we'll start by looking at the item grid maker. And you'll see it starts here by instantiating the pieces of it. We introduce some prefabs, and then once we get started, we instantiate the grid squares. And then we're going to be running this assign slot neighbors function, which is where I spent the bulk of my time here. And the way this works is it iterates through each of the grid pieces, and sets up a reference to the grid piece above it, to its below it, and to its right and to its left. And so you'll see it runs through with these loops, checking its position in the list. The way that I did this, and to make sure that it would account for different sized grids, is I iterated through and looked at the index of it, and then found an index 5 under for a 5 grid to find the one directly under, 5 over for a, and then 1 above and 1 below for the left and the right. Now, of course, there will not be a left and right grid piece if it's on the leftmost or rightmost side, which is why I check here to make sure that the one more than the index is not does not return modulo 0. Make sure it's not the exact number of rows or of columns in the grid. Make sure it's not the one on the farthest side, because if it is, I said it's neighbor to null. So if you take a look here while it's running, if we look at any of these, let's find the player canvas. You'll notice here's the first one. It has no up neighbor. It's got a down neighbor and a right neighbor and no left neighbor. And if you go to the next one, it stores as its left neighbor the piece immediately to its left, down is below it, and so on. And if you check through the whole list, you'll see the same thing in effect. And where we're using those is largely in these item slot behaviors. Before we go there, let's see the item behavior. This is where I'm using these pointer up and pointer down functions, or the events that I've found from this YouTube video. I'm using these pointer draggers and such to pick up and set down the object according to mouse dragging. And then they go into these item slots. So the item slot similarly checks for that event, and then looks through with these iterations, checking for the and looping based on the size of the object to ensure that every slot that will be covered up is set to is full. And if that's the case, it'll let you set the object down, and it'll set those slots to full. Okay, so we're at 10 minutes. I think I've given you a quick tour of how it works. So I hope you had a good time.